Welcome to episode number 131 of The Closing Table with Lawyers Title. I'm your host, Tamera Gaede, and today we're going to look for practical solutions rather than headlines right after this.
Gather round the table, pull up a chair. Real talk, real growth, we're taking you there. From the first handshake to the final key. The wisdom you need to set your business free. It's the closing table with Lawyers Title. Tamera Gaede, she's your main arrival. Yeah, Tamera Gaede makes the vision clear. With Lawyers Title, your best year's here.
Welcome back to episode number 131. Again, I'm your host, Tamera Gaede. I'm really excited about my guest today. He is a returning guest, but new to this studio. So welcome back, Kris Jones. He is the sales leader of Ebby Halliday Realtors, Prosper, and Celina office. And today we're going to talk about how to win in a changing market and what to pay attention to and as far as practical solutions in your business. So, Kris, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming
Glad to be
back.
here.
I'm super excited to have you. We engage quite a bit. We're friends, but also you're a partner of Lawyers Title. And then also you're an advisory council member in our DFW Game Changers Mastermind meeting. So we have a lot of cause to engage, and I've really valued your input and counsel and advice throughout the years. So I'm excited to share it with the audience today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So I'm one that just wants to drive right in. You ready?
Sure, let's go.
Okay, so we're going to put you in the hot seats today. Well, my first question today is, as real estate in Collin County has declined, and we're talking about transactions and then value of homes, what do you think are the major contributors to that right now?
That's a good question. I think it's a story of economic forces. We saw for about 10, maybe a little more than 10 years that Collin County skyrocketed past other counties
It's
in the
incredible.
area. Yes,
Yeah,
it was.
the growth was incredible.
Number of transactions, values rose historically. And with that, companies coming here from all over the nation. And so I think with economic factors changing, Collin County took a little more brunt than everybody else did. And so when we saw in 2022 with interest rates going up, the number of buyers per home at that point was so high. And so we had maybe 10 buyers in 2 homes. Well, over a period of a couple of years with rates being higher and buyers getting out of the industry, we saw a flip-flop, a lot more houses per buyer now. And so sellers have to get more aggressive. Buyers have more to choose from and can be more picky. And builders, not having as many buyers for them, they have to get competitive to get their inventory off their books.
Incentives
Right,
are
absolutely.
crazy.
And the builders are kind of the canary in the coal mine. So they're going to, what we see with builders, we're going to see in the existing inventory. So when we see them offering major incentives, dropping prices, the existing home sales in those areas have to follow suit. So, when you see that kind of thing happen over a period of a few years from 2022 to 2025, we thought, and the economists, specifically Lawrence Shune at NAR,
Brilliant man.
he was telling us, hey, this 2026 is going to be our first year back to a regular market. The cycles are going to come back. We were very excited about that, right? And but then we have this geopolitical crisis with the Iran war coming. So we saw interest rates didn't come down. Mm-hmm. Gas prices skyrocketed. Yeah. Consumer confidence plummeted. And so what we thought was going to be a return to a normal market, it retracted even more. So, and then there's all these questions. I mean, the hot topic right now is the question and the headlines about all the H-1B visa issues. Yeah. And whether these claims are true or not, just the perception of them is going to cause some trepidation.
Sure.
And so whether we see, people with those visas leaving the country, self-deporting, we don't know for sure, but there's all these claims. And so the hot topic is, well, this is what's causing the decline. We won't find out, I think, the real truth behind all of it for quite a while. I think that the news is going to come in and the statistics are going to come in over time. And just like you've heard before, the news gets around the world twice before the truth gets up and puts its pants on. So I think if you stay in it and just keep watching and learning, over time, we're going to find out more and more what really the issues are. But I think the basic economic indicators are pretty clear for most part.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same, applying the same principle as all of the real estate news, and we'll talk about some of that.
Sure.
How much of that do you absorb and try to apply, and how much of it do you just kind of put out, in the back of your mind and just kind of watch for a while? Because we may not even find out what's really going on until maybe January, when Blake comes in to do his economic forecast in our mastermind meeting and does the recap of 2026.
Right.
So I completely agree with you. There's so much news right now, and it's really hard for everyone to sort through it and figure out where the truth was. And the decline, it was really interesting because it started in little pocket areas, right? It's a little bitty here. This little community is doing, is looking at a decline, and then a couple of miles down the road, you could be looking at an increase.
Absolutely.
We have the complication of existing homes trying to compete with all the new construction. Celina has been announced as the top growth city in the nation. But, is some of what we just talked about could be causing that increase, and is that increase temporary? But it's still mostly funneling to new construction, in my opinion. The pre-existing homes in my neighborhood are sitting. They're experiencing price drops unless they come out the gate aggressively and are priced right. But we have another common thread of complication right now, and I'd love to hear your input of how you're working through this. So we have a lot of sellers that are trying to sell their homes after only owning them for a very short time. And I talked to a whole bunch of you that are trying to navigate through that right now, because their expectation of pricing isn't in line with what the market conditions are going to provide for them. So what does the conversation look like when you have to tell them the home they bought 2 years ago retracted in value?
It's a good question. I think the summary of it would be gracious truth-telling. I think displaying reality just in front of people, showing them the current conditions. Here's what sold in the last 6 months to a year in your neighborhood. Here's the pricing. Here's what's currently active. And letting people process through what's currently happening. And there's a reality that is out of our hands that we can't choose to get buyers to pay more than what a house is currently
100%.
should be priced at.
Yeah,
so we
100%.
have to live in reality, but we need to be gracious to our sellers. Most people that buy homes don't go into it thinking they're going to sell a year or two from now. You typically go into a home, thinking you're going to live there for a while. 5 to 7 years, I think, is the average time in a house. If you go into a home thinking, with the expectation that I'm going to stay there 7 years, you're usually going to do fine. Sure. For instance, if you look at values in 2019 to 2026, you've done okay.
You're doing great.
You're doing fine. But if you bought in 2022, 4 years later, those 2 to 3 years made a huge difference. Huge difference. And so I think we have to be gracious to understand people's difficult situations, but we also have to be honest. Yeah. And we are currently working with some sellers that are in that same boat, bought in 2021 and not even close in price to where they're having to sell right now. Fortunately, for the most part, we've had some people that can look at the numbers, process them, and understand this is just the reality where we are. And I would recommend, if you don't need to sell, and you're in that situation where you bought higher and you can sell right now, if you don't need to sell, don't sell. Don't sell. If you can wait. And I'd rather be honest up front with somebody than just try to get a sale. Sure. I think that's important for all of us to look at the big picture. I want to go into working with the seller with what's their best interest in the long term and give them recommendations based on that, and then listen to their needs and help them navigate it. Because it's their home, it's their equity or lack of, but we're there to help guide them. Will you take a listing that the seller wants to overprice? I will. I told you I'd go off book. I will. No, that's okay. That's okay. So we have all the conversations up front, and we're very honest about what is selling, the pricing, where theirs will a range of where theirs will likely sell. If they are reasonable and understand that reality says this, and if they want to overprice it a little bit, I'm okay taking that listing as long as they understand that they may need to make some adjustments pretty quickly based on the reaction in the market. Okay. All right. Now, I will say, I recently had a situation where same kind of thing. Buyer bought a house in 21. they're having to sell in 2026. They're having to sell quite a bit under. We gave a recommendation. They may have priced it a little higher than that, brought the price down, didn't get hardly any showings for quite a while, a couple months. Just recently got an offer out of the blue. And the offer's pretty decent. So those kind of things, we're so used to, in our market in Collin County, we're so used to things selling within a week that we forget that 3 months on the market without an offer is historically not a abnormal thing.
I need you to say that again.
So
say that again for the people in the back.
Right.
You know?
We are so used to, in Collin County, getting an offer within a week well above list price that we forget historically not getting an offer in 3 months isn't abnormal. It's something that historically that kind of thing happens because we've been in this bubble of a market.
Yeah.
Say bubble. I don't mean to use that in terms of right. We're in a situation to where we've been in a market that's so fast for 10 plus years that we don't know what normal is. And so learning how to operate within normal, set expectations for your sellers that, it could be a couple of months before we see major activity. It may be 3 months before we get an offer or 5 months. But look at what's happening in the market. Price according to what has sold, right? Because sometimes there's a lot of active sellers out there that are still living in 2022.
100%.
Right, that still exists. So what's active on the market is not necessarily an indicator of what things are going to sell for.
I just, there's so many things in this market that are making it hard to be a part of it. I don't know if I am formulating that correctly, but for example, I've heard time and time again, my seller is so needy for activity, and needy is not the right word. My seller needs to see something, right? There's been no showings, nobody's coming to the open houses, and the sellers are putting so much pressure on the realtor to get some sort of activity in there that we're starting to see, or we've already seen events to try to drive traffic that just don't work, right? And so I try to be very thoughtful with the clients and really explain to them, if you want realtors or eyeballs in the room or on that property, we need to construct a very thoughtful event. But that takes a tremendous amount of work, and it's fine. The sweat equity is fine, but you need to understand it's going to be a minute. We're not going to be able to do this next week, right? But there's so much pressure on the realtor to get something happening on that house. Right. And then the other thing that's really putting a lot of pressure on the realtor are these pre-existing homes that are smack dab in a new construction area, right? And they can't compete with the new construction incentives. So, and also the seller bought 2 years ago, and they're not going to be able to get their money back out of the house. They have to sell the house because they have to relocate. They're probably going to get an offer somewhere between $50,000 and $75,000 below what they paid for it, and they don't have any money to bring to closing. That is an incredibly difficult situation for a realtor.
It is.
I mean, trying to navigate through that challenge, I hear about it all the time now. And those two things are just, it's just a pressure cooker, right? So how do we navigate through? Do you have any thoughts about how to navigate through those two?
I have some thoughts. But there's no perfect situation. And there are clients there are clients out there that are going to be difficult no matter what. We do need to consistently communicate. We need to be the person that prompts communication. I think that's the first thing. We need to prompt the communication and the updates before they call us. If we wait for them to call us, we're behind the 8 ball. And trust is eroding.
Being proactive
Trust
about
is
reaching
eroding.
out. Yeah.
Even if it's as much as saying, there's this many people have viewed the listing on these websites. This many people have seen the video this week. This is our total data. This is how many show. Even if it's simply a phone call followed up by an email with the current data on the house and what's been happening. At the very least, that. And the reality that setting expectation up front, we may not get a showing over a 2-week period of time. That doesn't mean that your house is bad. It doesn't mean that no one's seeing it. It means that this is the kind of market we're in.
Yeah.
And so being able to communicate that upfront and consistently while sharing all the data of everybody who's seeing it online, because they don't see it when somebody sees it online.
Sure.
They don't see it when somebody clicks it as their favorite on MLS. There's a lot of things they don't see, but being able to show them and tell them over the phone, if you can get them on the phone, show them in an email with the documents and the data. I mean, being able to proactively do that is, I think, the first step. I think that'll alleviate most of the pressure. But the reality is there are some people that are panicked and they're scared and they want something to happen right now because maybe they're having a hard time paying their mortgage and they already know they're going to have to bring something to the table. And that's an incredibly stressful situation.
That is.
So we do need to keep our calm in the midst of it, bring calm in the midst of chaos. Even if we don't have good news to show, we need to have some news that we're sharing.
Yeah.
I think sharing some news is better than sharing nothing.
I agree with that. I mean, the silence is what makes them even more nervous.
Right.
So being proactive about any kind of communication, but data-driven communication, I think could help some, but there's still, I mean, it's just a pressure cooker right now for my realtor clients. And I know how tough that situation is for them. So let me ask you this. Okay. So kind of moving through this part of the conversation, what expectations are you setting with buyers actively doing a home search right now? So when they do sell later, they're in a positive place.
I think, so what we're doing currently, I mean, it's very similar to what we've always done. You need to have some equity in the game from the get-go, if any way possible. I know it's popular and very attractive to get more closing costs on a closing rather than dropping price. But if you can get more equity from the get-go, it'll put you in a better long-term situation. That's a big part of it. I think showing them what's happened in the market the past few years, that, hey, the values are down now. So understanding that, hey, if this happens to you, how will you respond to it? Or how are you preparing for this to not happen to you?
Sure.
So that, you want to plan. And you always want to prepare people to plan to keep it at least 7 years.
Yeah.
Plan that. Things change. Things happen. Jobs move. Divorces happen, unfortunately. But being preparing yourself to keep it long term, as much equity as you can have, and not overbuying.
That's a big thing is not overbuying.
Right. I've never been a fan of buying as much house as you can. And the reason is
same.
if you can barely make your payment now, then in 2 years, if you do see an increase in the values and your taxes go way up and your insurance goes way up, you may be in a house that you can't afford at that point at all.
100%.
And then if the market turns down at that point. So it just puts yourself in a difficult situation to buy more than you can afford now, just so that you can grow into it. I would rather see people be in a more comfortable financial situation and, try to buy something that you can keep for 7 years. But I think overbuying,
I think overbuying is a big deal that contributes. I mean, we're back in a normal. I mean, we're seeing a decline now. We'll see what the year-end numbers look like. But the prediction was, we're back to a normal equity gain on homes, right? Less than 5% per year is, normal. So we have to understand that the post-COVID market is done. And we're paying the price now for some of that, right?
Yeah.
We're not at the time where we can afford to be doing some of these things anymore. Right. This is back to a normal market. And also like I said, we're still paying the price for some of that COVID behavior, right, during real estate. Well, okay, so I'm going to kind of change the tone a little bit here. We have had some incredible news in the last week about things that are coming to Collin County from Dallas.
Right.
And so, the Dallas Stars are moving to the Willow Bend site. Mavericks are they're just moving to far north Dallas to the old Valley View Mall site. We've got the announcement of AT&T relocating to Plano and Samsung relocating to Plano. I'm hoping these are going to help, recover some of the values in Collin County. How did you react when you saw all of this news?
Good question. For me, I looked at it all and said, well, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, and here's why I use that phrase. I think a lot of people will think very similar. Well, that's pretty cool. I don't know if it's one of those things that people look at each other and say, oh my gosh, this is going to change the world.
No, but
right?
I think and just from a sports fan, Collin County sports fan, I can tell you the last time I tried to go to a Mavs game, it took 2 hours.
Right.
It was excruciating.
Right.
From then on, I was like, just take the tickets. I don't want to come to the game. So having it up north is going to be really nice for us.
I think it will.
But that's not the point. I mean, that was just a personal sidebar. But I think I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. So keep expanding on your thought.
I think long term, it's just another feather in the hat of our. We have an incredible county. Collin County is a great place, and that's one of the reasons it grew so much. For 10 plus years, and the retraction of value or the softening of the market doesn't mean it's not a great place to be. It simply means that economic forces have pushed values down a little bit. But this, having some big sports teams come. I just think it's another feather in the cap, and it's going to be another draw.
Yeah.
It'll be an additional draw. There are a few people that are like, oh, it's going to be busy. There are a few people that aren't going to like it. But for the most part, it's attractive to have a major sports team. And so I think it will be a long-term plus. I don't know if you can track a data point that says, hey, pre-Mavericks, post-Mavericks, this is exactly what the Mavericks did.
It'd be fun if Blake talked about that.
It'd be great if you could do that. But I do think it's a long-term value add for the county.
Yeah, I agree. And some of the plans that have been, I don't know how true they are, but some of the plans for some of these venues are pretty exciting also. I mean, it's going to be full-blown entertainment districts. So I'm excited to see how it all plays out. Yeah. Now, that's a tough one on Big D. But as Jesse said, okay, there's some stuff I really want to get to in the podcast. Super important to me to kind of talk about with you. As a boots on the ground, everyday realtor, okay, what do you think of the following? Are you concerned about the consolidation of real estate brokerages right now, nationally and locally?
I'm not concerned about it. I do want to be prepared for it. So what's happening with large companies buying large companies and new power structures shifting and being created, I think we're on the tail end of that. We're just going to see a reshuffling. I think there are some agents that are going to look at where they are and ask themselves, which we all should, ask ourselves the question, is the company I'm with today a reflection of the values that I have, the same way the company that I was with 3 months ago was? So people that joined brokerages 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years ago, and if they find themselves in a completely different infrastructure model and even value system, I think on the tail end, we're going to see some reshuffling. Yeah. And people are going to have to ask themselves, does my current company align with the values that I brought and believed in my former company?
Okay.
Because the names on the signs may be the same, but when a purchase happens, the value structures are going to reflect the company that takes the reins.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. Other people are going to shift over to those companies.
Sure.
But I think on the tail end, we're going to see a little bit of a reshuffling. I don't think it's going to be just drastic, but I think we're going to see kind of a little bit of moving around over the period of the next few years. But I don't think we've seen the end of it. Companies that, and I hope you allow me to take it off script here a little bit.
Sure.
But companies that were highly tech driven and that was their value was their tech are looking for and purchasing infrastructure to complete their value. Companies that have great infrastructure are either going to create or develop high technology, or they're going to look for a technology piece to buy out. So the companies are going to look to have high technology and great infrastructure. Those are the two factors that I see playing or causing the shuffling. Everybody wants both high tech and great infrastructure. That's what I see driving all this.
I think that's the best explanation that I've heard, that because I feel like that's the sentiment. That's correct sentiment about everything that's going on. And I think the way you explained it was very eloquent. I think the interesting part for me is the local consolidation, meaning the big brokerages absorbing the indie brokers and what that could translate to. And because that's a huge culture shift. I mean, it's one thing to go Remax Real, right? Because those are both big brokerages, or Compass, and Anywhere. That's a better probably comparison. But the small independent brokerages getting absorbed by the big box. Do we think that that's a reflection of the current real estate economic landscape? Or do we feel like the broker owners may be just ready to provide something to their agents that they can't bring on board themselves?
That's a really good question. I do think with technology and big data being national and worldwide, that large forward-thinking entities have a better leverage than they had 5 years ago.
Sure.
And so companies that can leverage the value of big data, I think will have a little bit of an advantage, at least for the time being, until the whole industry catches up. And so I think smaller brokerages are probably feeling the pressure of all the big data and technology, growth that's been happening. And so I think that's going to drive smaller brokerages to partner with larger brokerages, because there's going to be a way to have the comfort and the security of an existing infrastructure and high technology, with the ability to work specifically with their own agents at the same time, maybe as a team or as a group.
Sure.
I think that's attractive to a smaller brokerage, especially with all the uncertainty.
Yeah.
With all the reshuffling of these huge companies, smaller brokerages, I think, are going to look for security.
Yeah.
And I think that plays a big part.
Yeah, and some of the acquisition has included the broker owner keeping a lot of the agents as a team within him at the new brokerage, right? We saw that with Halo. Brett still kept his agents as a team underneath him that were his, and they operated under the Compass name, right?
Well, that
and their
benefits
platform.
everybody.
So, okay, we're running out of time. There's so many things I want to ask you about, but I want to finish running through the perspective of the everyday realtor. And to clarify, I introduced you as a sales manager because by the time this airs, you will be, right? But right now, as we're talking, you have that perspective, and you will, because you and Karis are still going to practice real estate. But I want to keep that perspective, boots on the ground, everyday realtor. There are unprecedented number of lawsuits around private exclusive listings right now. Does this affect you as an everyday boots on the ground realtor?
I think it gives me an advantage to discuss my value with clients. And here's what I mean by that. I want, if I'm working with a seller, I want my seller to have the confidence that we are going to expose their home to the most possible buyers, the most buyers possible, and get the best deal on their house. And I want to sell the benefit of not hiding listings from the market. I understand there are extenuating circumstances with A-list actors.
Yeah, but that's what, 5% of the market, maybe?
Less, way less.
Yeah, way less.
Okay. I think it would be a point something.
Okay.
But there are extenuating circumstances. But for the most part, exposing their home to the most possible buyers to get the best deal that they can out of their home. We're in an environment where sellers want to get the best deal they can. How can they do that? Is exposing it to the widest possible market. That's 99.9% of all sellers. So I want to be able to sell that. And if that's not what they're getting from somebody that I'm competing with, then I think I have the advantage. I think that gives me the advantage. So I have to look at it, and I'm not at all going to criticize or speak bad about any brokerage, but I have to look at the value that I offer as a broker, agent, realtor. I want to look at the value that I offer and make sure that my clients know this is why this matters.
Yeah.
And so I think it gives me an advantage if I'm going to expose their home to the widest possible market. Like I said, I'm not going to comment on specific companies and what they're doing.
You to. Yeah, but I want to stay like fact-based.
Sure.
On this.
And I want,
it's so sticky.
It is sticky, but there's also a lot of confusion of what each company is doing. And so make sure before you pass judgment on a company, look as much as you can into what they're actually doing. Because on the surface, it may look like one thing, but underneath it may be something different. And not in a bad way. It actually can be in a very good way. All the lawsuits and all the reshuffling and all the claims and the headlines, they exist for clicks.
Yeah.
All the articles, they're for the purpose of clicks, and they're for the purpose of shocking the system so that you'll stop scrolling and look at their article. Sometimes there's some truth in it, but sometimes there's not. And I would look at every headline, and this is free. I'm going to give this for free. Every headline that you read, not just real estate, I would assume that it may or may not be true, but understanding what it's being said out there is important. But maybe it's true, maybe it's not. It takes time to find out the truth. And like we said earlier, I mean, it takes a while for the facts to come out.
That's a great way to end the show, because my last question was going to be, are you blocking out the noise or keeping an eye on all of this to see how it shakes out and translates to your daily business? But you answered that question.
Well,
so
partially, yeah.
Yeah. So, you said partially. Now we've got a cliffhanger. So you have to finish it.
Sure. I want to know what's happening as much as I possibly can. I want to know what's being said. Not that I believe all of it or necessarily most of it. I want to know what's being said so I can speak in an educated way about it.
Yeah, I agree.
But I want to be able to step away and focus my time on my clientele and add the most value to them possible. I just think in the environment we are, I don't think we can afford to put our heads in the sand. I think we need to understand what's being said and follow as much as we can to know the facts when they actually surface. But that takes time and patience.
I agree. Maybe we'll find out, like I said, in January.
There's some things we won't. That's a reality. Be okay with that. Be able to, I think, I want to be okay with not knowing everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think, that's something that I focus on in my job too, when I'm doing all of this research about what's going on and what matters in real estate, is you have to have that filter to be able to sort through it, block out the noise, understand what's really going to cause an effect of some kind, and then also just do your business.
Right.
Okay, well, that's a wrap on episode number 131. Thank you so much for being my guest today. I reserve the right to ask you back. Thank you for tuning in today. Again, I'm your host, Tamera Gaede. If you like my content, you're really going to love my escrow team. So give me an opportunity to talk to you about your title needs and make it a great day.
Gather round the table.